Welcome and good evening, guys, to the Jungle Gyms podcast, the weekly Tuesday Tic Talk. I'm going to keep calling that because I love their what was that called, Gavin?
Alliteration.
Alliteration. That's it, James. Thank you very much. So I'm Anthony. I'm going to kid on that I'm going to host tonight, guys. I am the hostess with the mostest. I've got Gavin to my left, right. I don't know. I've got young James down below us. Gavin, how you doing, pal?
I am not bad, not bad. A lot to talk about as a Celtic fan after the weekend with Martin O'Neill coming back, but there seems to be like kind of a new cloud of like pessimism floating over Parkhead right now with the January signings. So I don't know if it's a glass half empty or a glass half full podcast tonight, but I'm sure we'll get into it.
It's going to be an interesting one because obviously, as you see, Martin O'Neill's back. We did get a 4-0 win against Dundee United. There's reasons to be positive considering where we were 2 weeks ago. But then again, transfer window is always an issue, isn't it? James, welcome back. You had a week off last week. Hope you're feeling better. How you been, pal?
Brand new. I think I've actually missed the last few weeks, which is a bit mad. I think this might be my first one since before Christmas, and maybe a wee bit earlier than that. And somehow in that time, I've essentially missed a full managerial era at Celtic, probably for the better. But aye, strange times indeed. So we'll see how the night pans out.
I wasn't going to do this, but obviously last week me and Gavin doing the show last week, we dedicated quite a large part of it to the end of the Wilford Nancy tenure, and Daz came on later on in the podcast as well, and we got his opinion too. So that said, just a couple of minutes, we won't dwell on it too much unless you've got something really angry to get off your chest. But what was your overall take on Wilford Nancy?
I think he needed more time. I think there was logic in playing Liam Scales at left wing. I think the idea of one at the back with Austin Trusty was great, and I quite enjoyed the substitution Tombola we used to see every week. So, I don't think there was a lot of positives to take. But no, in all seriousness, like we've said before, it was destined to fail. It was never ever going to work. You knew that pretty much for the second he was appointed, but obviously to get behind him, my personal jumping off point was probably earlier than most, but it was the Roma game. At half time in the Roma game, we were 3-0 down to a team that hadn't broke sweat, and I thought he would change it, go to a back four, and that was only his second game. And kind of 10-15 minutes into the second half, we had two right backs on the park. We needed them playing at right back, and that was when the writing was on the wall early doors for me. But just a whole lot of nothing really. Just a total waste of time. It could have cost us gravely this year. Time will tell on that front, but it just never made sense. As I say, coming in for America with football or soccer being the fifth biggest sport in America, and the quality of MLS is probably better player for player than it is in Scotland. But in terms of pressure and things like that, it's absolutely night and day, and he found that out pretty quickly. For the colours of your magnets on your tactics board to your trainers, the scrutiny you're under here is absolutely no comparable in the slightest to what it would be in America. But an all-round failure and probably expected. But moving on.
We have a few comments, Smell the Glove and Michael as well. We'll not dwell on him too much. It is the end of the Wilford Nancy era last week. We want to be as positive as you can as Celtic fans. Obviously, we all love Martin O'Neill. And he took over, and his first game was against Dundee United at home, which I believe... Did you guys go to the game at the weekend? Yep. Better than I did because I live far, far away, so I enjoyed the viewage on the old telly box. But it was a good game overall, I think. It was a 4-0 win. We had goals from Yang, Engels, Nygren, and Maeda, 2 in the first half, 2 in the second half. Possession-wise, 78% to 22. I think at one point in the first half, that was more like 91% or something like that in our favour, which was absolutely mental. Plenty of shots, total shots 22, shots on target 8, big chances 6, lots of passes, 732 passes at 92%. And I'm making a point of saying these numbers because comparatively to Wilford Nancy games, especially the games that we got beaten in the last two games, they are all better stats. More passes, more shots on target, more bigger chances. Yet that's the one thing that Nancy had going for him was this, oh, the attacking football's so great, but the defence was so pish. Well, here's Martin O'Neill, yet again back in the hot seat, and he's shown another manager, I don't want to be too hard on Rodgers, he's shown another manager, simple is better sometimes. You didn't need to reinvent the wheel. And the last stat for you, James, I know you love it so much. XG was 3.11 and we scored 4 goals, which means we actually exceeded XG. Woohoo! I can. So I'll jump into the first goal. There's a couple of talking points within, but the first goal is probably the easiest one just to start and kind of go chronological. A goal from Yang. It comes in from the left side, I think it was. Maybe Keartini brings the ball in at first. And he takes the ball with his right foot, kind of a low drive, just on the edge of the box. I believe the first goal that he has scored for us is technically outside of the box. Gavin, how did you rate Yang overall in that game? How did you rate his goal?
The goal was it was I was kind of pleasantly surprised whenever we made that breakthrough. I think it was roughly about the 20th, maybe 23rd minute in the game. And it was one of those games where we, in the first half, we had plenty of possession and we were trying to kind of like position Dundee United to where we wanted them, moving the ball from left to right. And there wasn't really many flashpoints up until that point. But whenever the ball fell to Yang, it wasn't like one of those ones where everyone's shouting, shoot, shoot. But it made sense to kind of pull the trigger at that point. I think sometimes we can be guilty as a football team of not pulling the trigger in those kind of areas. And it was a good strike. He kept it down on the ground and he kind of just caught the keeper a wee bit unawares and went into the far corner. Really, really good goal. And for someone who has kind of seized the moment as a Celtic player right now with this kind of uncertainty when we've kind of been, just not performing at our best. I think Yang really has kind of seized this moment, and that's him now got 2 goals in 2 games. I don't know how many he's got for the season because I think he scored against Livingston as well earlier on in the season. So I wonder how many that is in total. Maybe there's more than just those 3 goals, but really good.
It's only 3 or 4.
Is it just
overall? I think it's not that many, but as you say there, Gavin, his performances during the last kind of few weeks, month or so, he's actually been quite good. Don't know if that says more or less about their overall team, but credit to Yang, he is stepping up.
He's definitely stepping up when other people maybe have not been as doing as well as what they can be. But Yang has been standing up, and it's a funny tale right now. Being a Celtic fan, whenever Yang at one point was very much expendable. Like he was so far away from Parkhead at one point, a ball here away from signing for Birmingham, and now he's quite an important part of the team right now at this point in the season. It just shows how messed up things are right now at Celtic Football Club right now. But Yang, give him credit, he's doing well. He's not for we messed him about big time earlier on in the season, but he is being very professional, and you could maybe say that he's in the form of his life right now. Maybe that's an exaggeration, maybe not. But he's standing up when we need players to stand up. So full credit to him.
Nice. I would certainly agree with Yang he stepped up at a time where pretty much no other player was stepping up. And I don't want to over-egg him because stepping up in the last 6 weeks and looking the best player on the park probably isn't that hard a thing to do. However, he is doing it and he's taken a lot of slack in the past, so credit where it's due. And perhaps it takes somebody like Martin O'Neill to simplify the game, to focus the game on attacking football, but in a simple way, rather than this Brendan Rodgers possession sake for possession. Maybe this will open up things for Yang and make him kind of come out of his shell, because the talent is definitely there. I think we've all said it, especially James has kind of compared him to Mikey Johnson at times, where you can see the footballer that's there, but for some reason it's just no coming out consistently, or the final product isn't quite there. But you can see he is trying. You can see he's getting into positions. You can see he's trying to run with the ball and take his man on. Sometimes just not very successfully. But I think lately he's definitely be coming on to that game and showing he's got something in his locker. James, next talking point was actually on my list is the Julian Araujo tackle, whatever you say his name. I'm going to ask you, James, what did you think about the tackle? Can you remember live at the time? It was a bit late. I think deserving of the yellow card, but then overall, it's early doors. What's your opinion on the guy coming in so far?
At that exact moment, I think the words that left my mouth was "Oh yeah, can't you?" Because it didn't look great seeing it obviously live, but a yellow card probably just about the right decision. That was his one dodgy moment. I think O'Neill was quite funny in the press conference after it, when he references it. But apart from that, I thought it was a kind of steady Eddie. I don't think it was a standout, but I think it was fine. It was absolutely passable. Definitely better than Ralston, albeit Ralston's been playing centre back for the most part recently. But I'd have my head of Ralston in the pecking order, and he'll probably get plenty of game time whilst Alistair Johnson's out. So I didn't really know anything about him. Well, I knew nothing about him prior to him coming in. So pleasantly surprised off the back of what I seen at the weekend. And as I say, he's going to get plenty of game time for the foreseeable anyway.
Can I ask? See that player, is he actually American or is he actually Mexican?
He's Mexican.
He is Mexican, but he sounds American, and he's he's got an American accent, but he plays for Mexico.
I'm actually going to Google this because my natural instinct is to assume that he was brought up in California of some territory.
It was his press conference after it, because I did think to say he sounds kind of similar to Austin Trusty, but no, he is Mexican, because I think that's why he's here really in it, to get in the Mexico squad for the World Cup.
See that
yeah,
Charles,
so his place of birth is California. Lompoc, California. Never heard of Lompoc. But yeah, Mexican Californian, take it as it is. Sorry, Gavin, cut you off there.
I had my head in my hands whenever he made that tackle. It was just Ralston wouldn't make that tackle. I'm just saying the guy was just a wee bit over eager. First game, maybe.
It was like he decided that regardless of how far or away the ball was or how later they passed it, he was getting in for that tackle regardless. It was like sleepwalking into a car crash. You could see it for a while away.
I think it's one of those ones of, I need to make an impression at home. I need to show that I can put a tackle in, sort of thing, and get the crowd on his side. And it's just obviously timed it slightly bad. It could have been a lot worse, James. I think you're right in saying that the yell's probably justified and fair, but if you saw red, I don't think many of us would have complained. You'd be fingers crossed that VAR would have corrected it, but it was definitely late and it was definitely fast. I'll move on from that though. He seems like he's been, a good start. So let's see the next couple of games and see if he can step into the squad, because he definitely has to be better than Ralston. But James, I'll stick with yourself for the next goal. It was Arnie Engels. It was a goal again. I believe it was KT that brings a low cross in from the left side. He opens up his right foot inside the box and he almost kind of like guides it into the back of the net. I found it a very composed kind of finish. Again, let's take Engels as a player, the goal itself, and overall his game. How did you find him?
Yeah, I thought Engels was one of the standouts. I thought he was really good. Possibly man of the match. Right up there in contention. I thought it was really good. The goal's a tidy finish as well. I didn't actually realise just how tidy a finish it was until I seen it again on Sports Scene. But no, I was impressed with him, and I know we kind of get around in circles with Engels, where you think there's a player there and then it falls off and everybody kind of disregards him and then he kind of gradually builds his way back up again. But I've always maintained I think there is a player in there. I think we've seen glimpses of it under Martin O'Neill, kind of died a death a wee bit as it did with so many under Nancy, but there definitely is something with Engels, and I just hope we can tap into it, because we're going to really need everybody in the squad for the remainder of the season, so hopefully he can keep up and go on a run as well. But no, definitely hope for Engels. I've never been one for assigning him to the scrap heap.
I'm sure we could probably dig out a few comments where you may have already tossed Engels to the wayside. But
maybe
we'll allow
Yang,
it for now.
Maybe Yang. I think I'm on record as saying I'd take ginger bottles for Yang. But at this point, to be fair to Yang, if we sold him in January, it would be madness. And even if you said to me 6-7 weeks ago that I'd say that, I would have laughed at you. But that's how important he's became to this team. So it would be madness if we let him go.
See, the other thing to add about Engels, I don't know if Martin O'Neill did say it publicly that he wants Engels to add more goals to his game in terms of open play, but he obviously did that. In terms of the goal that James talks about, like the finish is one thing, but he was involved in the actual build-up to it as well, starting deep in midfield, and he kind of went to Tierney, and then he was on the receiving end of the pass, running into the box. We need midfielders who are going to do that. And if Engels is going to stake a claim in the team, to say this is my jersey, then he should be doing things like that. So it's an eye-catching thing, and it's another goal. So well done, Engels, for that. We need to kind of praise him whenever he deserves praise. So
no, definitely, and I think even I can't remember if it's for Nygren's or Maeda's goal. I think it's Nygren's goal. He's involved in that with the initial shot that becomes the rebound that Nygren gets his goal out of. So he's definitely in and involved in that kind of 8 becomes a 10 kind of midfielder, which is something that me and James have said quite consistently over the last probably 18 months or so, that a lot of our midfielders do quite actively act the same kind of player, don't they? None of them are number 6, none of them are defensive midfielder. We're shoehorning McGregor into there, but we all know fine well McGregor is a much better 8 come 10. He's better going forward. He's better with that kind of turn and drive forward. And I think it's the same with Hatate, Nygren, Engels. McCowan maybe less so, but even then he's still... all of them seem to be number 8s with a wee attacking flair to the game. Nobody's an out-and-out number 10 as we would all traditionally see it, as a Tom Rogic kind of, Lubomir Moravcik kind of way. And nobody's an out-and-out number 6 defensive midfielder in the way that, James's love affair with Victor Wanyama, or even, and I dare say it, even a Nir Bitton, who would play a proper defensive midfielder game, more like a Busquets at Barcelona, and by no means could he even lace Busquets' boots, so I'm not going to go there, but just mean the type of player that he could be. We don't have anybody who's specialised in that way, which is quite annoying, because I think if we did have, you could probably see the better of a couple of these players that we're talking about, such as Engels, if he's got somebody behind him who can play the defensive midfielder and allow him to get forward more, along with perhaps a Hatate next to him or Nygren next to him, and just open the game up for these guys. Because I think, as you say, Gavin, he has got that touch and that flair to go forward when he wants to, and the same as Nygren, although he's not blessed with pace, he can get his goal as well, which is the third goal that we'll come on to with Nygren. I think it's derived in the left side, cutting in from Taneki, who gets a shot off to Engels. Yeah, that's the one where he passes through to Engels. Engels gets his shot off. It falls to Nygren, who kind of takes almost a double take, a double look, and he waits for his moment to just kind of pop it into the top of the net. From your position on the ground, Gavin, how did you see the goal? How did you rate Nygren overall?
I love the composure. Like that composure. I was about to say you can't buy that, but clearly you can buy that. Look, some players have got that in the box, and some players panic like fuck. So fair play to the big man. Like it looks like he took like 2 full seconds before he actually he chipped it into the roof of the net. So I really, really happy with that. And that kind of third goal was so important. I think whenever you saw it, Martin O'Neill it looked as if he relaxed a little bit. That third goal was massive because we've seen it already. You can be you can be leading at half time, but in the second half, it's for the previous manager, it's how you respond in the second half, and that was a great response, to get that third goal. So fair play. Another thing about Nygren, I think he's a bit of a to talk about him for a second. He's a bit of an enigma because we're talking in general about buying players and buying people who are going to strengthen the team. And if I ask you guys, does Nygren genuinely strengthen the Celtic team? I don't know if you'd be hesitant to answer that. You want to say yes, but at the moment, kind of unsure. The thing is, he's now got 9 goals in the league, which is very, very good for a midfielder. Like, our striker should be having those numbers, but for a guy who isn't always a starter, he's really coming up trumps in those kind of big moments. Sometimes he does sky the ball whenever he's in front of goal, but he's just got a really good knack of finding himself in the right position. So Nygren, whether you think he's a proper Celtic player, yes or no, but he is contributing, and long may that continue. Maybe he'll be the difference maker in terms of goals this season, who knows, but he's a funny one. He is a funny one. Don't know exactly where his best position is on the park, but he's helping the team out with goals, which is very important.
Definitely not right wing is not
Right.
his best position for me. I instantly said it when we were linked with him just before he signed. We all do this thing. I mean, I'll be honest, never heard of him before we were linked with him, so not going to claim I knew of him. But as soon as you see the typical YouTube highlight reels, he was claimed to be the right winger that we're bringing in. Instantly, you could see he's not a right winger. He's a number 10. But he's not the number 10, as I said a minute ago. He's not the Tom Roderick number 10 or even the Matt Riley version of the number 10. He sits. Maybe it's just he's not got the pace. I don't know. But he seems to almost sit a little bit deeper for me. I see him a little bit more rounded than even Matt O'Reilly, although I see him sitting on that right side of the midfield 3 as we traditionally play it these days. But I think some of his best games have came from playing the number 10. He's not the most perfect version of it, but that kind of, he's got the brain, I think, to be able to know when to pop up to the composure, as you say there, Gavin, with his goal. He knows to take the moment to compose himself before he takes the shot, so he doesn't sky it or put it wide. And I think he would look good potentially as the number 10, but again, we need to fix the two that would sit behind him. We can't just keep playing McGregor and Hatate and ask them all to do the same job, but not the same job at the same time. Something I noted down when we were talking there about composure and Nygren. Something I noticed was it Yang's goal last week, was it? Or the week before? He had great composure right at the edge of the 6-yard box to bring the ball to his own feet and almost do a little dink to the side before he put the ball in the back of the net. And I think a lot of people probably watched that goal from Yang before and thought, a bit clumsy looking. He kind of got a bit lucky and the ball fell to him. But when you actually watch it, Yang's got quite a bit of good composure, a bit of a quick brain to know what to do at that point, which, back to what we were saying earlier about Yang, credit where it's due. I think he's definitely beefed up. He's got a bit more strength over the last couple of years, but I think he's definitely getting smarter in his play. He's learning when to make the pass a bit more often. He's learning when he can take a man on and kind of run with the ball and stuff. So credit again to Yang. On the midfield, James, I know I kind of half spoke for you earlier on saying that all our midfielders are the same, but anything you want to add with the whole Nygren chat? Do you see him coming into his kind of role?
I think all the midfielders that we've got there, Nygren probably is the closest to an out-and-out number 10 in there. And like you say, he has these moments where you're like, I'm not really having you, but I'd probably, based on current form, I'd have him in the team over Hatate. I'd go Nygren, Engels and McGregor. So there's definitely a place for him in the team now, in my opinion. And as you say, you can't really argue with his numbers. And hopefully, if we do get some better quality in, then, as we've said 13 times, all the midfielders should improve if we can go and get that out-and-out holding midfielder.
I think that's fair. As the midfield, a lot of talent in there, but I think we all do agree it needs refreshed. We need some specialised positions. Bringing it on to the last goal then, and probably the second last point that I want to make on the game overall, unless you guys want to chime in. But the last one is Maeda's goal, which is, again, credit where it's due to somebody who probably doesn't get much credit. Tenetke, I thought, had a good game. He thrives in with the ball as well. He has his own shot, which again rebounds. And Maeda does what Maeda, for me, does best, is through the middle, reactionary put the ball in the back of the net. Just don't think about it. He didn't look best pleased though when he put the ball in the back of the net. And I don't know if we should look into that too much, or if it's something that you just, Maeda can be Maeda at times. Sometimes he doesn't look happy. Sometimes he looks overly happy. But guys, whoever wants to take the floor with the last goal, how did you see it? How did you think Tanecki did? And overall, how do you think Maeda did?
There you go, Gav.
Maeda, I think it was Tanecki who actually hit the shot. I was really surprised that the keeper palmed it out. Thought it was terrible goalkeeping. But Dyson Maeda, he's quick as a flash. His starting position, he was onside clearly, and he had to make up a fair bit of distance to actually get that ball before the keeper managed to kind of reset himself. But quick as a flash, and he taps it in from the palm out from the keeper. So really good striker's goal, good predatory instincts. And I guess whenever you're beating a team 4-0 at home, you do want your striker to be getting on the end of those chances. So for confidence, good for Maeda. In terms of the celebration, I don't care how many times Maeda has those kind of lukewarm celebrations when it looks as if there's something on his mind. As long as he's celebrating in one form or another, I don't care, because that means he's scoring goals for Celtic. So happy with that. Thought Maeda had a fairly quiet game. It was just one of those games where Dundee United looked as if they were either playing 4 or 5 in defence. So chances were few and far between for Maeda. The onus was more on the supporting cast to create the chances. But everybody kind of delivered in order to get goals from 4 different goal scorers is a massive, massive positive. So overall, really, really happy. But a quiet performance for Maeda. Also thought Hatate was slightly quiet too. But credit to, apart from that goal, credit to Tanecki. I think after maybe his first 2 games for Celtic, people were really expecting big things for him, but he kind of tailed off in a big fashion. He's went away to the AFCON, and now he's came back, and I'm really glad of his attitude on Saturday. Really, really good performance from him. He wanted the ball. He was trying to drive at the defender. Very too often he kind of cuts back, but on Saturday he was trying to mix it up. It's not always going to work for you. But by the way, I think he flashed the ball across the face of a goal about at least 4 times. And then you can be looking at your centre forward, like, why aren't you getting on the end of it? But Tanecki was really, really trying. So he was another kind of candidate for man of the match. Really, really pleased with him. And it might mean that we can actually kind of revise our opinion of this winger, who might actually play some sort of pivotal factor in the title run-in. So really happy with him. One other thing, and then I'll pass over to James or yourself. Trusty, there was kind of 2 big moments with Trusty in the game. In the first half, he had a free chance from a corner when he rose above everybody, and I can't believe he put it wide. I didn't see a replay of it on Sports Scene, but watching it in the stadium, it looked like you should be burying that. We don't score many goals from corners, and he had the height advantage over everybody. He had to jump on everyone more accurately. Should have put it away. But the other thing was, quite significantly, I think it was after we scored the first goal, Dundee United had a really big chance, and it was from a Trusty error. I think it was maybe just inside of our box, and it was Scales to the rescue. And fair play. If we never had another centre back to cover his backside, if we had a full back instead, then maybe that's where we would have conceded. But we had the right people in the right place at the right time. So thankfully, we never paid for his mistake. But just kind of 2 moments I noted for Trusty.
I think it's quite telling that we had, because there's a point that I was going to bring up just generally with Scales as well. I think it was before we scored our first goal. That again, you saw the backline tracking back almost in unison, all 4 of them. The team was defending as a unit, and Scales puts in a good tackle and a good challenge in front of the goalkeeper. And it had that moment again, because obviously everything with Nancy just before. You think the exact same thing, Gavin. You're like, thank God Scales was there, because if this was Nancy, Scales would have been at the left wing. You would not have been anywhere near it, and you'd been looking at Trusty solo. I think it was two Dundee United players who would be on our left side and one on the right side, and you'd be like, we'd be absolutely fucked. But we actually had all four defenders coming back, plus in the midfield, and as a unison unit, kind of moving back as well. So just seeing the back four kind of working like a back four should, working like a defensive unit should. Because even a back three can work if you do it properly, which tends to be three centre backs, not fucking Anthony Ralston. No offence to the lad. But I thought it was quite good from Scales. I think Trusty had a good game as well. The point I want to bring up next, though, is one of these kind of contentious points, kind of VAR, ref watch, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure you all remember it. I'm sure you all remember it. Used to, especially, probably felt like a fucking eternity in the stands. But it was the Maida goalkeeper pressure thing with the whole 8 seconds free kick malark. Absolute mental. I don't know. Was it Nick Walsh was the referee? I don't know what he's thinking about. You watched the replay of it, and it's a good 12 seconds that the keeper has the ball in his hand. So we're already 4 seconds over that 8 second rule that's now in place. And at that point, Daizen Maeda, for me, as a guesstimate, is still about 15 yards away from the goalkeeper. Maeda's outside the box, the keeper's inside the box. It goes another 4 seconds or so, and he gets a little bit closer, maybe gets to within about 7 or 8 yards of the keeper, and all of a sudden it's a free kick to the goalkeeper. Can anybody, comments as well, guys, if you want, can anybody explain what the fuck that actually was and why the 8 second rule wasn't in play?
He gave Dundee United a free kick for, I'm not even
For
sure
nothing.
if he'd know the reason.
Loitering.
But as you say, like, if Maeda's in his face and no letting him kick it, then that is in the rules. But as you say, there was at the very least 5 yards at all times between them, and it was totally bizarre. I think he tried to make it as if it was always a free kick, but then if it was always a free kick, what was the free kick for? It just didn't make any sense. That's one of the ones that you'll never get an answer to. Just obviously it didn't have any impact on the game at all, but just for a standard a refereeing point, like, that's proper fake it till you make it stuff. That was just, everybody's getting on my back. I need to do something. It was almost as if we forgot the rule, and it was been totally bizarre.
Gavin, any take on the referee for that entire game, perhaps? Nick Walsh is obviously a very, very respected referee and very good referee in Scottish football. I'm sure he's just had a moment of lapse.
Aye, as Sugarman said, it's Madden and Maida gave the keeper plenty of space, and the referee just made up a foul on his head. I've not seen that rule being implemented yet in Scottish football, and my only conclusion is that the referee shat himself. Because he clearly wasn't counting, counting the seconds that the keeper was in possession of the ball for. I think it sounds like a difficult rule to implement, because you need to start counting straight away, and what referee is mentally going to start doing that.
I think at some point the referee needs to indicate that they're kind of counting. So I'd imagine if the goalkeeper collects the ball and he's about to throw it out within like 2 seconds, if not less, you're not going to bother the count because you can see it happen. But I think in those moments where you can see the keepers playing for time, shall we say, and I don't mean this in a negative kind of bad sportsmanship, but you see it all the time where the keeper will bounce the ball a couple of times, he'll just slow the game down, he'll let the players get into position for the kick out. I think it's once that point starts, the ref needs to some sort of indication, I'm counting now, and give him a fair warning that the keeper knows, because the keeper's not counting himself. As much as it's easy to count to 8, everybody counting 8 exact seconds, you're going to be a second or 2 out either side. So I think there has to be a bit of fairness to it. But as I said, it got to 12 seconds on the clock. We can all discuss, is it 6 seconds, is it 8 seconds, is it 9 seconds, borderline. But once it gets to 12 seconds, you're like 50% over your time limit. And then it went beyond it again as Maeda gets closer. It's like, I honestly think it was over 15, 16 seconds by the time he actually called the free kick for it, which is just madness.
I think against Scottish referees, a lot of undue credit, assuming they can count up to it, because it was the same in the first half as well, where was it the first half of this? It was the first half. The Dundee United player went down injured for a good few minutes, and then there was 1 minute injury time at the end. Aye, it was bizarre.
Yeah.
And
Aye.
you know, I'm a stickler for that, McGinty. But
I love it.
that was bizarre. It was strange. And as I say, it would be good to get the column on Sky telling us what that decision was, or letting us just hear the VAR. But obviously they won't, because it's not a penalty or a goal or whatever. But aye, it was just totally strange.
Can I say one kind of other point about the game itself that I noticed? See the singing from the boys section throughout the game. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was terrific. There were no sooner had like one chant stopped that they started up with another chant. They were like constantly going for the entire 90 minutes. And with the absence of the Green Brigades, I thought the boys were fantastic. Really, really contributed to what atmosphere was there in the ground. Really happy with that.
I'm intrigued to hear you say that, Gavin, because on the TV, it sounded like it was a morgue. And I don't know if that was the typical camera microphones getting turned down or pointed in the wrong direction, maybe. But there's a large parts of that game that sounded like it was empty. It sounded absolutely dead, to the point that people, even on the forums and stuff, were making comments of how much we were lacking and missing the Green Brigade just to make that noise. Excuse me. So it's actually quite nice to hear that in the ground there was atmosphere being generated.
I wouldn't say it if like I wasn't like completely aware of it at the stadium. So maybe, yeah, as you said, it didn't come across on the microphones as well. But for me, they were an ever present during the game vocally. Yeah.
Good. I wasn't sure how to organise the next half of the podcast, and I think I'll flip what I've got written down, and we'll take it to transfers overall. I'll not structure it too much, but needless to say, we've not done much in the transfer window so far. The right back on loan is probably not as terrible as we all made it out when we said he was the third choice Bournemouth right back. He actually looks like he might be okay, but he's the only transfer deal that we've made, and we are at the end of day 13, so we'll call it the halfway point almost, as far as when we will be next on the podcast. Just guys, I'm guessing, are not happy with the transfer activity so far. Martin O'Neill had his press conference today. He's made comments about assuring the fans that there's work being done in the background, that they are hard at work, and he's relatively sure that some deals are getting closer, although not imminent, not today or tomorrow. I don't disbelieve Martin O'Neill when he says those comments. However, me being me, I do want to doubt some of the word choice, maybe. When he says things like we are working hard, I'm pretty sure he means him and Sean Maloney are definitely working hard, and I do not doubt that for a minute. But are the people upstairs? Keep in mind we've got rid of Tisdale, who seemed to operate as a one-man show as far as football operations and recruitment was concerned. Is anybody upstairs working hard? Because this is dragging out. He mentions things about deals getting, coming down the line, and he's had players offered to him by agents, perhaps. Maybe the word choice, maybe the way the sentences were merged, maybe it's not quite agents offering, and maybe it's the club that's offering them to Martin, but he's rejected a few options, which is good that he's having that say in it. But we're still nowhere closer to having a striker, a right winger, a defensive midfielder, another centre back, although we have recalled Stephen Welsh. And today we'll measure it all together, boys, for a big topic. Injury updates on Jota. Likely not going to be back for this season. Probably going to be summertime before we see him. So as much as we've all cried out for a centre back, defensive midfielder, right winger, a striker, we might even need a left winger at this point. James, I'll let you open up because you seem like you've got a couple of things in nodding away and arms crossed.
Just the first thing, and look, Martin O'Neill is no bad word to say about him, but this hard at work line, as opposed to what as opposed to no being hard at work. Do you know what I mean? It's a kind of minimum requirement. Look, the transfer window is a Celtic transfer window. It is what it is. We all go into it knowing exactly what we should expect. We don't get it, and then we'll be sitting in a couple of weeks trying to convince ourselves that there's enough there once we get players back for injury. We can do this, that, and the next thing, and hopefully go on and obviously get the league in the bag. But the fact that we did not have a striker lined up to come in at 5 past midnight on the 1st of January is, regardless of how the window goes, that's a failure. And it's a failure. You can sack Tisdale, you can sack Nancy. We've needed a striker for over a year. And the fact that we've needed this, we've needed a striker for exactly a year. And the fact that we've needed a striker, and within that year, the only thing that's happened is we've basically sold Adamida. We've brought in Ian Araujo on a free, who's injured and was out Brendan Rodgers' Filofax. And we've brought in Shin Yamada, who looks miles off it. There should have been somebody lined up to come in, as I say, at 5 past midnight. But the fact that we then look to go back to Kyogo to get him in loan. Now, bearing in mind, Kyogo, what is it, 1 goal he scored in the year since he's left Celtic, and he was the answer to the question. Kyogo was on the decline. I keep seeing folks saying that he would have got us through to the end of the season. Is he better than what we have? Absolutely is. But I genuinely believe you could put an announcement out of the tannoy and give somebody a pair of boots in the crowd, and there'll be at least one person there that's better than what we've got up front now. So I feel as if that's setting the bar so low. I think if we're being honest, Kyogo was on the decline prior to him leaving Celtic. So for our board in their infinite wisdom to look at the guy that was on the decline, that we got a tidy fee for, to then think, he scored 1 goal since he left, so that decline has continued declining. So he's going to be the man for us. He's going to be the man that's coming in, fired us to the league. It just shows the lack of planning and the lack of anything at all. I mean, even the links that we've had in this transfer window, the guy, is it Mohamed Bamba that we've been linked to for Lorient?
Kyogo was so desperate not to come back, he started scoring.
But even with the Kyogo thing, I know that the rumours have started about Birmingham not wanting to deal with us because of how we dealt with the Yang transfer. This is where it all comes, and look, it is rumours, but it wouldn't surprise you, because this is where it will all come back and bite you.
But no smoke without fire there, James, is there?
No, exactly.
You know, how many times do we need evidence of Celtic being hard to deal with? You can go back to the McGinn saga. Hard to deal with Hibs. They wanted, was it 4.5 million or something stupid? We bid 1.2, 1.3, 1.5. Aston Villa come in and offer 2.7 and they get him. Now, I'm not going to say that Hibs would have sold him at 2.7 to Celtic. They obviously wanted 4, but we were nowhere close, nowhere near that level to negotiate, where we actually just pissed Hibs off. And every time we negotiated with an extra 100 grand, they just went, no, 4 million. No, 4 million. But see if we came in at 2.5, maybe you would have got him for 3. Maybe if you offered a fair wage and fair negotiation. Another story we've had, sorry, James, one thing, and I'll let you back to it. Similar with the Birmingham thing, they've kind of turned around, the rumour is they've turned around and went, no, fuck you, we're not dealing with you, you're not getting him. Seemingly, we talked to Kyogo first before talking to Birmingham, and Birmingham went, fuck you. Similar thing happened, rumoured, with Sevilla. Sevilla were apparently well aware of how Celtic are in transfer dealings. Seemingly, we actually made an approach for Iheanacho during the transfer window, and Sevilla basically turned around and went, look, we want rid of him. He's taking up a wage. We want short of him. We're willing to release him just so we don't need to deal with Celtic. Just, we'll release him and you can fucking deal with him on your own. And that's how he got released on the last day of the transfer window. And then we signed him 2 days later as a free transfer, because they literally wanted rid of him and just couldn't be asked dealing with us, because that's the reputation we've got. Look at Go Ahead Eagles.
That was what I was going to say. The Jacob Broom and Go Ahead Eagles as the other one, kind of similar. Well, pretty much the exact same. Just obviously we were on the opposite side of it as a signing club. But no, look, as I've said to you before, I know people were getting into this one day expecting us, well, maybe not expecting us to splash the cash, but expecting us to get some decent loans in and really try and kick on, and even for the next 4 months really, to get the league in the bag. And there's two things that factor into my thinking. Is the firstly, we're trusting the exact same folk that has got us into this mess to all of a sudden get us out it, and everything points to it being quite the opposite. And the other thing is, for a club that is so massively, or a board that is so massively risk averse, and having the rainy day fund sitting there and never kind of seemingly want to touch it, for us to appoint a manager and then sack him just shy of 5 weeks later, along with his full coaching staff, I must admit, it did kind of look, the timing. It was here 5 weeks and it was 4 weeks too long. But the fact that they pulled the trigger that early, it did surprise me. But for a board so risk averse, to have to pay off basically a full coaching staff, obviously we don't know what the figures were, but they'll see that obviously as a spend because you'll need to pay them off. But I think that'll impact our business in the transfer window because just purely because they are so risk averse. And I'd be very, very, very surprised if we come out this transfer window with any net spend. I think it will be much as it has been in the past. Obviously, no factoring in the managerial departures, but in terms of transfer fees, I'd be very, very surprised if we have a net spend. But as I say, even the players that we have been linked to, it really is dire. I mean, the Kyogo thing, I'll maybe say it was kind of 50-50. Obviously, that get kiboshed pretty quickly. And then it was like, right, we'll get Dudahan on the phone again. We've not been to him for a wee while. So, and we got this, we're linked with this guy. And I don't know if you have seen it, but there's a video of him on Twitter with Laurie on. Apparently, he was on a bad run and then he takes a penalty and skies it.
I heard about this.
It was a video I seen on Twitter. Takes a penalty, skies it, and then just it was like the world can fell apart on him. He just doesn't look good at all. His record doesn't look good. I think he's had a wee kind of purple patch in his career in League 2 or League 2. But nah, there's nothing about that signing that excites me. The other one was Kieran Bowie. For $6.5 million, which I don't think we'd spend anyway, but no for me. If we were signing him for less than six, we're saying that the fee doesn't even really matter, does it? Because we're never going to do it. But I think if we were signing Kieran Bowie, we'd need to sign another striker in alongside him. If we want to sign in the qualifiers, Kieran Bowie was really good. It was him that scored that. It was when him that scored the wonder goal. Was it against Midfield or Leisure Warsaw? One of them anyway. But any time I've seen him since, he does seem to miss a fair few chances, kind of similar to Johnny Kenny. So I would take him for a lesser fee, but on the understanding that somebody else would be coming in. The one that I do like the look of, and I don't really think we've actually been properly linked, I think it is just kind of supporter talk, was Josh Mulligan. I think he looks like kind of what we need in midfield, big, powerful runner, which is something we don't have in there. The boy Tabby, as it seems to have obviously fell through, even kind of taking the politics aside. Martin O'Neill came out and described it as one for the future. We can't do that. We can't do that this window. We need players for the here and now. We don't need squad players. We don't need project punts for next year. Normally in a January transfer window, even last year, we would have all been sitting here saying if we can get these players in, bed them in for the qualifiers. At this rate, there might not even be any qualifiers for Europe. That's how bad things have got recently. But nah, no. Very, very far from impressed, and I just don't see it. I feel as if I say it all the time, but I just don't see us doing the business that needs to be done. I think we will sign a striker. Whether the striker's good enough or no would remain to be seen.
Callum Wilson.
But that's another guy that's injured all the time, isn't it?
It is, but it's going to be Callum Wilson. We're going to lean on Martin O'Neill's contacts down south, and his reputation down south as being a great guy. and we're going to get 3 or 4 loans in, and it's going to be Callum Wilson.
Maybe we'll
100%.
get Gabriel Bonlaw in out of retirement for the TalkSport connections.
Fuck it, aye. You just get a wee TalkSport 5-a-side up here.
Sticks Simon Jordan in goals. I couldn't do any worse anyway.
I wanted to mention another player you didn't. I thought you were going to say his name at first. The Croatian Canadian boy,
Seager.
defensive midfielder Seager. I really like the look of him. And again, I'm not going to pretend that I knew anything about him before we get linked with him, but that link seems to have just fucking died a death. But he looks like the exact sort of player that you would love to have in what is the Callum McGregor role. But he would actually suit it so much more better. He's tenacious, he's aggressive, he's physical for a small guy, but he can turn with the ball, and he's got a look to get forward and a good strike on him when he's getting forward. I would have loved that to have been a signing that would have been made regardless of Nancy with a Canadian kind of link, or Martin O'Neill, or anybody, because I think he's the type of player at the age of 23, 24, I think he is, that you do want to bring to the club. It's not a project, but it is somebody who's obviously not broken through a glass ceiling that's beyond our reach. He's somebody that is attainable for a few £1 million and could do a good turn. Gavin, transfer-wise yourself, how are you seeing the whole window? Anything that's on your mind that's not been discussed yet?
Mate, it's obviously very, very bleak. And I guess you either get angry with it, or you've developed that apathy right now where you can't even build yourself up to get emotional about it. But clearly we've got this pattern of behaviour right now where it's a daily and a dollar short. Like, to replace Kyogo with Kyogo is just you laugh, don't you, man? And then bringing Stephen Welsh back as well. Even admitting it in the press conference, like, what, we're just going to bring him back for a bit. Hopefully we bring in someone and then we can let him go again. It's desperate times.
Really, but I don't fault Martin O'Neill for that, Gavin.
No,
it is desperate because what do the optics look like if you end up sending them back next week, because we do eventually sign a centre back? Kind of like, you've just pissed him off and you just pissed off Motherwell. Not that I care about Motherwell, but at some point we might want to sign a kind of Lennon Miller kind of player from Motherwell, and like Hibs, they might just turn around and do that too. But then we've pissed off Stephen Welsh. But say we don't get another centre back in and we have to then plump for Stephen Welsh for the rest of the season, what does that look like optics wise for our transfer activity for the squad overall? That's
I don't know.
Just to no offense, Stephen Welsh.
I don't know if we can embarrass ourselves even more. You know, I think we're already in the trenches in terms of how we conduct ourselves. It's a bit of a shame for Welsh because that kid actually does need a bit of a break. You know, he's been apparently injury free. So I would really like for him to just kind of get more game time with Motherwell. But yeah, you need to kind of protect your own interests. So I understand the reasoning for bringing him back in its worst case scenario. In terms of the striker, look, it's ridiculous that we're middle of January and we've not brought someone in. Now, we've got the biggest game in our season is the 25th of January, whenever we go back to the capital and play Hearts on their own patch. If we have not strengthened by that point, then it's looking extremely bleak. People are talking about, is it a matter of who strengthens best in this transfer window equals them winning the league? And we're talking about both Celtic, Rangers and Hearts right now. So that's like an interesting media narrative right now, but just kind of looking at our own transfer business, it's shockingly bad. Like, even the boy Tabby, as James said, the politics aside, the fact that we go for this guy and then at the 11th hour, like, he's already done an interview to saying how proud he is to sign for Celtic. He's done an interview and then it transpires that he needs surgery and so we don't go for him. It just beggars belief. And the other thing is, like, he's a project. You know, look, somebody said it already in the chat there. Martin O'Neill likes experienced players, and this is a time for experienced players.
Which is why I think it's going to be Callum Wilson for the striker on loan. Is he the experience that we need? I don't know, but I think that's going to be it.
Yeah, like the last I saw Callum Wilson play was, I don't know, is he still at? No, he's at West Ham, right? So the last time I saw him play was at Newcastle, where he was a bit top player under Ericsson. That was the last time I saw Callum Wilson play. I don't know what he's like right now in terms of fitness, injuries, but if it's the Callum Wilson of his career, then it's going to be stop, start, stop, start. But how bad can you get, in terms of forward planning? Like, this is a crucial period. We messed up in the summer, and now it's the winter, and we're still not being proactive. And it's difficult not to look at the other two teams and who they're being linked with and who they're bringing in. It's really, really, really sad. Really sad. And somebody else said, like, if we don't do the business, then think of the repercussions that the board will have. Think of them having to face the music come the summer if we do lose out on the league. It's unthinkable, but we actually do have to contemplate this as like a realistic outcome. So the signs aren't good.
See, just to go back and touch on the Stephen Welsh thing, you're saying about the optics and stuff like that. Like, Stephen Welsh, by all accounts, has been really good for Motherwell this season. He's having a good season. He needs it. He needs his confidence back. He's not going to make it at Celtic, that much we know. But we signed Inamura as a centre-back. We've then loaned him back to Japan after he's played a couple of games, albeit at left-back. But he did look all right, even in pre-season. I know it's friendlies, but he looked all right. But we then loan a guy who was signed as a centre-back, loan him out to only a week later when we've not had any injuries. I know there was rumours about Trusty, but apparently he was training fit and fine the day. So we've not got any injuries, and then we've called back Stephen Welsh. And surely the logical thing would be, I mean, if the manager's coming out himself and saying, well, hopefully this will just be for a week or two, and then we'll let him go back to Motherwell, surely the logical thing would have been to hold on to Inamura, just even for a couple of weeks, because realistically, they're not going to play unless there is probably a couple of bad injuries. They're not going to play. So would logic not have told you to just hold on to Inamura for another week or two, get these games out the way, get a centre back in if that's obviously seemingly what we're doing, we need it, and then get your loans out the door. But to loan out a centre back come left back, and then a week later recall another guy who's proven no good enough for Celtic, that might be harsh, but I think that's the reality. All the while we've had Jemai Simpson-Pussy there, who couldn't get a game for us. He's now went out and played 90 minutes in the Bundesliga and was seemingly all right. And it's like, where is the logic in this? Are we now rating Stephen Welsh higher than Simpson-Pussy and higher than Inamura? And it might be the case that he is better, but we've seen him at Celtic. We know he's not going to be good enough. And something's just fell off my wall. But we know he's not going to be good enough. So it just kind of defies any kind of logic or common sense the way we've done it.
See that entire mindset that you've got there, James, and this is more to do with the group chat for the podcast that we've got. Well, I've mentioned this before. That's my mindset on Ross Doohan. We know he's not good enough, so why have we brought him back as a third choice goalkeeper? Why waste the time, the money, the effort? Just let him be at Aberdeen. Let him go to the next club he goes to, wherever it is, and let him have a career for himself. And just promote the next youngster, whoever it is. Defensive-wise, you're saying, obviously, you're looking at Murray, Simpson-Pussy, potentially Inamura, keep them there. We already had young third-choice goalkeepers who tick the quarter box for European, under 18, fucking 21-year-olds, whatever it is, Scottish-based players. We already have youngsters who can tick that third-choice box. Why bother with Ross Doohan? And I only bring it up because it's always bugged me, but you've said the exact same thing when it comes to Stephen Welsh. We're just fucking around with his career when it's not actually needed.
Look, a third-choice goalkeeper, the chances of him playing for Celtic is different from a third or a fourth-choice centre-back. Much, much higher choice. And at that point, it comes down to who's less of a bomb scare. So I would rather a Dane Murray or a Stephen Welsh, despite the jeopardy that they bring to the game, compared to somebody lower on the ranking. So that's
fair.
I think as well, with a goalkeeper, if you're going to be a kind of make a career as a third choice goalkeeper, you're barely going to play 10 games in your career. So I think a goalkeeper, more than probably any other position, is a position that obviously the more you play, the more experience you get, you do get better. Barring kind of Donnarumma, you don't have many wonder kid goalkeepers because they need to go and ply their trade and build their games up, and then obviously they get their move kind of late 20s, early 30s. I think so. Goalkeeper, you probably need to go out and get the experience to improve. I mean, look at Scott Bain. By all accounts, he's been absolutely flying for Falkirk this year. And when he had to occasionally step in, was it the Derry City friendly he played? Remember, that was like an old-time fucking generational stinker. So I think a goalkeeper, more than anything, you do need to be playing consistently.
And what a segue that is, James, talk about Scott Bain playing at Falkirk for the next part of the podcast, which is the game tomorrow night against Falkirk. I've got the table brought up. I presume this is our game in hand and Falkirk's game in hand. Falkirk are sitting in the 6th position, 5 points clear of Dundee United with this game in hand. So regardless of what happens tomorrow for them, at minimum, they're 5 points clear in that split bracket in the top 6. Falkirk having a really good season. From what I can see, they've had a really cracking couple of seasons under John McGlynn, sorry. Get my players confused.
Obsessed.
And as much as we enjoyed, was it Falkirk was the first game for Martin O'Neill when he came in the first time? We enjoyed that change of pace and the fact that we got the win and stuff. I don't think we can take Falkirk lightly, especially when it's away in Falkirk. We need to be careful. We're not in the best of positions, but guys, we'll not dwell too much because what can we say that's not already been said for the last few weeks on podcasts nowadays? But how do you see us lining up tomorrow? Any players that you would bring in that's different from what played at the weekend against Dundee United? Are you expecting a dominant performance? Are you expecting us to be a bit more cautious? How do you see it, Gavin?
Just looking at the kind of the table and actually a bit of attention to the forum table. Falkirk have got, from what I can see, 2 wins on the trot now. They've collected the same amount of wins as what Celtic have over a 5-game period. So we're kind of like on even keel for the last 5 games in terms of form. I don't know how physical Falkirk are. There's part of me, as crazy as it sounds, part of me, I wouldn't be surprised if Johnny Kenny started tomorrow night. I'm not saying start him, but just sometimes Martin O'Neill might just see a different angle to approaching a game. But I think the defence takes care of itself. No change with the goalkeeper, despite the clamour. But yeah, Tierney. And by the way, I shout out to Tierney. Okay, like people, well, including myself, were quite scared of how Tierney's body would hold up. So far, Tierney has been quite reliable. But yeah, Tierney, Scales, Trusty, and the new guy, Araujo, that's how you pronounce his name. And under Martin O'Neill, I thought Rio Hatate was really coming onto a game. But at the moment, I thought that he didn't have an eye-catching game at the weekend. So McGregor, Engels, and trusting Martin O'Neill, whether he goes for Nygren or whether he goes for Hatate. I think you could toss a coin, maybe Nygren, but for the amount of goals that he gets. And then, yeah, Teneke and Yang, of course, and up front. Probably will be Maida. However, as I said, I just wouldn't be surprised if he maybe changes it up. Maybe puts Maida on the flank, drops Teneke, and sticks Kenny up front. But yeah, I think it'll be a difficult game. We beat them. You're right. It was Martin O'Neill's first game, and that was at Parkhead. We beat them 4-0. I'll take 1-0. I'll take 2-0. 2-0 for the Heart. But just as long as we win, because Hearts are playing tomorrow night as well.
They are indeed, and any win for us at all tomorrow night will put us back into second place, as much as we're all fearing that we might actually end up fourth behind Motherwell at some point. Goal difference wise, we're sitting at 17, and so are Rangers, and obviously this game in hand can take us back to 44 points. So any sort of win will put us goal difference ahead of them, regardless. For me, the lineup is probably going to be the exact same with those two kind of talking points, Nigrin or Hatate. Personally, I would like to see Nigrin. That doesn't mean I don't like Hatate, I do, but just I think Nigrin could offer you a bit more kind of as a support striker, the number 10 to kind of lead off the striker. But when it comes to Kenny or Maeda up front, I think you're right, Gavin. It probably depends on what Martin O'Neill thinks about Taneki. Does he trust him on the left? Then you'll see Maeda up front. If he doesn't trust him on the left, he'll put Maeda there and he'll settle for Kenny to go through the middle. I think it's Taneki that's going to dictate if Kenny starts or not in that way. James, lineup wise for tomorrow night, are you any different about it?
Same as the weekend, same as you have said. I'd bring in Nigrin for Hatate. That'd be my only change. I think he'll keep Maeda up front. And then I think it's at the weekend against Auchinleck. We'll see a wee bit more rotation. Johnny Kenny coming in, maybe Dane Murray coming in, Stephen Welsh maybe coming in. But I think Tony Ralston, Kobe Donovan, one of them will probably come back in. But I think he'll go just Nigrin for Hatate is only change. And then, as I say, change it to the weekend before. Because Bologna's next week, innit? That's next Thursday.
Yep. It's Falkirk, Talbot, Bologna, and then Hearts. And I think we were touching on it earlier, Gavin, with the transfers as well. We needed transfers done last week, this week the latest, but we cannot go into that Hearts game without reinforcements, without a striker, without some sort of additional winger. I think Hearts game is... I think if we lose the Hearts game, Hearts are probably going to win the league, which is mad to say out loud. But if we lose that Hearts game, I think we're done. If we win it, I think it's game on for all three. But I think it's potential that we kick on at that point, and we've got it in our hands. But it's the biggest game, as you said earlier, Gavin. It's the biggest game of the season, which is mental to see.
I was talking to my dad about the kind of the league running and what his confidence levels were, and he said about Hearts. He said, "Well, you've got to remember Hearts haven't had any injuries yet, so they're due a bit of bad luck, and like sometimes it doesn't always work like that. As much as what I want to believe that Hearts will have bad luck injuries to like their key players." If you think about like last season, I don't think Celtic had any significant injuries at all, and it's just been night and day compared to last season and this season with Vickers, AJ, people like that out, and Jota. So who knows? We might have to make our own luck, but it's kind of in our hands. We've got 2 more games against Hearts. Like if we win all our remaining games, we'll win. But then the Huns can say that, Hearts can say that as well. So
yep.
But who else would you want in this position? Like Martin O'Neill looks fired up, and with the motivation he's got with Fotheringham and Maloney, I think we've got the right people in to motivate this squad. The good thing is they've got the experience. They know what it takes to go over the line. Whether or not we can strengthen, who knows? But I hate to say this, but for the neutral, I'm going to fucking love it. But for me, no.
Yeah, as a neutral, there's going to be a great run-in because even if Hearts were to fall away, they've got a little bit of a cushion that they could go 2 or 3 games on poor form and still be with a shout. I think going into the split is going to be all 3 of us looking like we're thereabouts. But for me, as I said, if we lose the Hearts game, I just don't see how was at 6 points behind them just now, are we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if we lose the Hearts game and go 9 points behind, it's only January. I think that's too much for this squad to overcome. Any other season, 9 points at this stage, I wouldn't be that dismissive. But the way that this season is, the way that this squad is, I think 9 points behind Hearts at that point is too much for us to ask. So we definitely need to win it. James, before we wrap it up, get your opinion on pretty much all of that as well. How do you see the end of the window, the Hearts game, the run-in?
I just, to be honest, I think it boils down to whoever has the best January transfer window will go on and win the league.
Not us then.
Not exactly. We're comfortably third in that regard now. Hearts signed another boy today. I think is that the 3rd player they've signed this window. I think they had 1. Was it the 4th?
Striker. Striker, he's got like
The-
12 goals in 13 games. Boy for Uganda.
Aye. So they're obviously flying in this notoriously difficult time to sign players. Rangers are linked to the boy Scott Wilson, who is somebody that I'd be looking to hijack that deal, to be honest with you. I think he's a good player. I think he's got good pedigree. 40 odd caps for Denmark, Serie A, Bundesliga experience. So, aye, they look to have their kind of business in order. And then there's us kind of floundering again, looking back to do Dahan and all that he entails. So I'd be lying if I said I was confident, to be honest with you. But as you say, somehow through all the moaning, there is a tiny wee small bit of a feel-good factor, in the sense that Martin O'Neill's back in the dugout and Nancy is gone. So we just really need to get the players back confident and get back to playing, and try and fix the damage that was done under Wilford Nancy. But as I say, in terms of the running, whoever has the best January transfer window, I think will go on and win it. Hearts don't seem to be signing bad players with the Jamestown analytics and Tony Bloom and everything. Rangers seem to have been linked with some good players. No two ways about it, good pedigree. And as usual, we are floundering about in the £2 million project punt market and the loan market. And unless we can get a big name loan, or Robbie Keane, a Craig Bellamy type, then I am not overly confident, to be totally honest with you. But that's where I'm at. Whoever wins the transfer market wins the league.
I don't know why I'm fucking doing this to myself, but I'm looking at the league table and the next couple of fixtures again, and I'm doing the stupidest fucking thing you could ever do, and looking at it and thinking, you know, if we beat Falkirk tomorrow night 3 or 4 goals, we go second, and if we beat Hearts by 3 goals, we actually go top of the table in goal difference. And I'm doing that fucking thing where I'm going to let myself believe that we could turn this whole disaster of a shit show of a season around in 2 games and be top of the league again before the end of January. And I know it's not going to happen, and I know I'm going to be raging with myself in about 2 weeks' time.
Hope is the last thing that leaves you. So
it does indeed. And as we say that, Gavin, hope is the last thing that leaves us. It's the thing that kills us most. We will, regardless, though, keep the faith. We've been on for 1 hour and 12 minutes now. Guys, anything else you want to cover this week before we wrap it up?
Well, thank you for hosting, by the way. It's been I've enjoyed the change of responsibility. Thank you for that, and you've done very well. One other thing I would say is, this is one of the few times where you could probably say that we don't really have any saleable assets in terms of the playing squad. Even Engels, you wouldn't even, you'd be lucky to get 6 million for him nowadays. It's just such a dramatic change in fortune for Celtic right now, despite being the richest club in the country. It's just remarkable how poor we can do if we put our mind to it.
That is actually quite remarkable, because less than a year ago you could have sold Diaz and Maeda to apparently Wolfsburg for anywhere between 15 and 20 million. Yet today, I think we'd all sit here and think we'd be lucky to get 5 million from him. And that's not a great blight on Maeda overall, but just where the club is, the whole form, the mood of the place. Nobody seems to be, as you say, Gavin, a sellable asset. Nobody seems to have any real value. We need an upturn in fortunes. This has to change at some point.
That just shows you. You said it's a change in fortunes. I don't think it is. I think we've had really good managers that have masked the deficiency. I mean, the majority of the players that we've got are still Ange Postecoglou players, like Maeda, Hatate, Carter Vickers, Jota, and Maeda. If we were a properly operating football team, he would have been away. Hatate probably as well, Yang as well. So we're not even. Don't get me wrong, Yang. Obviously, he cut some slack, but the model that they keep telling us isn't failing. The model boils down to buy low, sell high. We're not even doing that anymore. Is the bare minimum.
It is failing, isn't it? It is failing. If the model is to sign Yang, Maeda, okay, not the youngest, but sign them for low fees and sell them later on. We are feeling they're actively reducing their value, and they're not sellable, as you see, Gavin. They're not sellable assets for great worth. Obviously, every player is sellable to a degree, but we wouldn't get the money that you actually would really want in the realms of the strategy of buy low, sell high. Because what do we pay for Yang? $1.5 million? You'd be lucky to break that again at times. If it even was that. Maeda was $1 million. Again, could have got 20 million from 8 months ago. You'd be lucky to get a quarter of that now.
Right. Well, sorry, we will end it in a second. But no, just to touch on what you were saying as well, I think the most recent example of that is dropping 5 million on Balikwisha and 5 million on Tenecti, and then we were linked to a winger for £2 million that was earmarked as one for next season. Well, if we just wrote £10 million off in wingers there, are they failed projects already? Balikwisha probably has Tenecti jury's out on, but just as I say, the board, the strategy that they told us, they came out and told us it was all Rodgers' fault. It wasn't down to the strategy or planning at the club. It was one man's desire for self-preservation. But he's gone. They've then brought in Wilford Nancy and Paul Tisdale. They're gone. So is it time to start looking inwards? They're running out of people to blame, and they're never going to blame themselves. So you'd like to think for that reason and that reason alone, then we will pull a rabbit out the hat towards the end of the window, or in what's left of the window. But I will be very, very, very surprised if that happens. And if we don't, and the Hearts game obviously coming at the end of the month, if the worst was to happen, I think, I don't know if I'd say Hearts will win the league after the back of that, but I think it definitely rules us out the running for the title charge. But I think that end to the window, deadline day and things like that could get really, really toxic if it wasn't already previously. Obviously under Nancy, but
I think if we lose that game to Hearts and we're 9 points behind them, even if they go and sign 3 or 4 real quality players in that last few days, I think the damage is far too gone. And I think the riots happen regardless. Gavin, I don't want to cut you off and end the podcast without you getting one final word in after all that from James. Anything else you want to add before we do sign off?
It's been emotional.
It has been indeed. Guys, it's been I was almost going to say the wrong podcast name there. It's been the Jungle Gyms podcast. It's Tuesday Tic Talk. We shall be back next week in some form or another, and hopefully we'll be celebrating another couple of wins. All the best, guys. Hail, hail.